set, start!
Prepare to qualify. You'll never know how far we'll go. Press the pedal. Take control. On your marks, get set. You never know how far we'll go. Press the pedal. Take control. Cross the line just in time. You'll never know how far we'll go. Press the pedal. Take control. Take control. you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Feel the rush, see the goal. Every second, take control. The world blurs, time won't wait. We rise, we fight, we accelerate. 3, 2, 1, go. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. We're always chasing taillights.
Round number 2 of RCI's International Sprint Series brings us to one of the newest tracks in LMU, Laguna Seca, 3.59 kilometers around. This small track has played host to some of the biggest races in American sports car history. Hello, everybody, and welcome in to RCI Fridays. Jesse Lee, Jack Mays, Cormac Malloy bringing you all the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of the race today. Round number 2, Jack, a new track, a new playing field for everyone in LMU, not just the drivers here in RCI. 2 categories, of course, hypercar and LMGT3, and somehow we've got to fit them all around the smallest track in LMU.
Oh man, when you talk about circuits and corners that everybody knows around the world, Laguna Seca is always at the top of the list. The home of the corkscrew, of course, a fantastic race circuit all around. And yeah, you said it best, Jesse. It's tight, it's small, it's short, close quarters. Wheel in dealing is what everybody's going to need to do with multi-class. They're going to have to find their way through each other as best they can. Qualifying has just concluded, and I do believe what we're seeing on our screen right now is incorrect, but good news. I have the list in front of me right now. Milan van der Vecken in the Aston Martin Valkyrie takes pole in the hypercar class. Louis Kierton joins them on the front row. Martin Vaselli in third, Fabian Schmidberger in fourth, Billy Octane in fifth, Tom Watts in sixth, Richard Whittle seventh, Sibel Lidhout in eighth, Gabriel Figueiredo in ninth, Jake Boswell 10th, and Rafael Figueiredo in 11th. First in place and pole position in GT3 is Martin Lorick. Landfiel Fever in second, Mike Hook in third, Sisman Yannick in fourth, Grimwilith fifth, Wojtek Rybecki sixth, Mark Gibson seventh, Ted Edwards eighth, Adrian Fraga ninth. In 10th is Mark Ham, Kevin Boss in 11th, Tony Jupp in 12th, and the 13th and final starter of this race and in GT3 is Pengyats Karagirgo, and Jesse Lee will come with you with our standings coming into round two.
Of course, the championship standing is going to look a lot like how they finished from round number one at Paul Ricard, and indeed they do. Martin Vaselli leading the championship by virtue of the win. Andre Ursu, Billy Octane, the top three in hypercar. Behind them is Rafael Huell, Richard Whittle, Fabian Schmedberger, Tom Watts, Reese Wilkinson, Michael DeGore, and Sibo Linhout, the top 10 in hyper. And in LMGT3, Martin Lawrence took a fantastic win as well over Zach Vermack. Roland Hans, the top three, completing the podium from 1 week ago. Behind them, Grim Lilith, Mark Gibson, Vulture Rybecki, Mark Ham, Kevin Boss, Tony Up, and Jacob Tuckey, the top 10 as they finished a week ago. Though I will say this, Jack, as we get ready to light the candle on round number two from Laguna, it's a new track, as I mentioned. It's different in every sim. You know the track, you know the corners, but you probably don't know these cars in this sim around here, being very new indeed. The drivers are going to learn something today, and we're going to learn something as well up here in the booth.
Absolutely. It's a learning experience for all, and I mean, your guess is as good as mine on what this race is going to shape up into. I think at the very least, it's going to be fantastic. Laguna Seca delivers time after time. It's a storied circuit, one of the greats, I think, in the United States, and one of a personal favorite of mine. I'm so excited it's now come to Le Mans Ultimate. I've driven it a bit, though I've been away since it released, so I haven't been able to drive in anger yet, and I'm going to be living vicariously through all 24, 25 drivers that we have on the grid tonight. That may sound a little smaller than we've seen and maybe that we will see throughout the season, but I promise 24 cars on this circuit, two different classes, is going to be enough to give a show.
No, I was going to say that sounds like bliss if I'm in this field, especially in the hypercar class. I don't want a ton of other traffic because you're going to be stuck in it all day. And if there are a few fewer cars, that actually plays to everyone's benefit and doesn't really change how this start is going to go. Coming through turn two, the Andretti hairpin, and of course the fearsome corkscrew for the first time on that first lap is still going to be incredibly treacherous. The name of the game today is going to be simple. Keep it on the asphalt. Anything else could be a very short trip to a very quick end of your race. If you are able to keep it on the black stuff, then maybe you're going to be in a position to work a little magic with your strategy at the end of the race. We are in wine country in California this week, and that means not a whole lot to complain about with the weather. Sunny skies, quite warm indeed, but not really the warmest it gets around here, let's be completely fair. But all things told, pretty darn perfect for a race, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's not even as close to as hot as it could possibly be. Drivers are going to be maybe throwing a sigh of relief Seemed like everybody in hypercars selecting a medium tire. That's the softest they have in their allocation here on this race circuit. And keeping it between the lines for sure, Jesse Lee. We talked about it a little bit last week. Track limits. I think they're going to come back with a vengeance compared to, well, we saw maybe 5 or 6 of them last week. I think we might see 6 to 10 this week. But they're getting ready to round the final corner at the slowest rate, 2x2, before they get ready to start this race. Milan van der Vecken, first time he's been on pole in a little while. Jesse Lee, get us going, because I think we're about to see an absolutely brilliant event.
WeatherTech Raceway in Laguna Seca, its very first race here in LMU on RCI TV. Louis Kierton and Velkin will race down into turn number 1, side by side, as everybody behind them tries to feel it out, but they will fight over the first place position, the 36 out in front of Velkin, but no, up the inside it's Kierton and the Ferrari. The Ferrari taking a good look. He's still there, look, as we enter turns 3, 4, and 5.
Immediately under pressure, Milan van der Vecken got nailed out that time, and he's wide. Is Martin, or Louis Kierton, he had a really good run, but he carried too much speed immediately into the gravel, but out of the wall. So at the back of the grid, it's sort of going to reset their race. And, well, a second chance for Milan van der Vecken. Lost it after the first couple of corners and leads it after one more into the corkscrew for the first time at Raceway Laguna Seca. Everybody hoping to come through. They're dropping 60-odd feet through that fearsome section, and everybody looking the right way around, I think, pretty much throughout the field tonight. But, oh, man, that was almost, I think, a problem for Louis Kierton, but showing that amount of aggression at the start of the race and, well, hopefully staying the right way up. I think he's going to be looking to run his way back up this field.
Well, Kierton had a go on that initial start on Milan van der Vecken, and it didn't quite work out. By the time they got to turn number 4, found himself off of the race course, and I suspect we'll see that happen for several other drivers. What that has done is given Vasily P2 with Fabian Schmedberger up the 3rd, Billy Octane, Tom Otts now your top 5 in the hypercar class. Saw a couple of cars in the pit lane. There was a Ferrari hypercar and an LMGT3 in the pit lane. I don't know if the LMGT3 was starting from the pit lane or got a late start or what. Maybe they didn't grid up, but they certainly lost a lap, having only completed 1 lap, the hypercars have. So very interesting indeed. Kevin Boss has gone off, though.
He has, not for too long, but something that definitely cost him a bit of time. We'll see what happened. A bit of melee at the start of lap 2. That's Gabriel Figueiredo in the Toyota. He came out. That's a lot of curb to take in turn number 4 for Kevin Boss. And that's going to be a bit of damage, but all 4 tires still attached, rear wing still on his race car at this moment. Not the way you want to start your campaign in a day like today. Good news, bad news. Hour 27 still to go. Find his way back in a bit of footing. No big weather to help pull him back. It's just going to have to be speed, skill, and strategy. Well, now with Wojciech Rybecki, who's got Grim Lilith and Mark Gibson in the rear view mirror. It's been a reasonable start, but side by side just behind, I think the Mustang's going to get the run on Grim Lilith. He's going to try to hang it around the outside through the Andretti hairpin. They're still side by side, but I think the Mustang may be going to get away with it. Still a nose in. Does Grim Lilith have? They're going to go down into turn 3 as close as they could possibly be. Maybe Grim can hold this one through turn 4. Might be able to run with it. Has done. Let's see. Do they stay on the track? They do. They don't make the fatal error that Louis Kierton made a few moments ago. That's some tidy stuff from Grim Lilith.
Yep, everybody trying to sort it out amongst themselves. Got one of the hypercars coming back through. I thought I saw a Ferrari hypercar, but now that I think about it, that might have just been a red Toyota hypercar, the facelift Evo version of the Toyota, maybe selling me a little bit of a dummy there. But Voken continues to lead over Vasily Schmedberger, and everybody feeling out the racetrack, feeling out what they have. And we saw last week at Paul Ricard, the race settled into this groove where sort of the drivers paired off Noah's Ark style. Will we see that here today, and how high will attrition be? We saw that Kevin Boss got over the curb, and that is something we didn't talk about, but you've got to be mindful of some of these curves, especially in the end of the first sector, turns 3, 4, 5, and 6. You don't want to get too far over the curbs. There's a huge anti-cut in some of these corners. There's a big yellow one right there. You don't want to hit those, because the same thing that happened to Boss will happen to you. And the reason we worry about that is you get to racing somebody. Sometimes you have to take avoiding action and you put yourself out there anyway. So moves are going to be at a premium today, and everybody on it early, it looks like, knowing that fact.
Of course, and you know, you think, all right, yeah, I can take my time overtaking. Yes, that's true, though. If you're in a hypercar, you're going to have to be overtaking at any opportunity once the field spreads out. Of course, you got the slower LMGT3 class cars. You're going to need to make your way through. Otherwise, you know, cars ahead of you might escape. Cars behind you might catch up. Right, Becky and Lilith at about it again. This is the fight for third at the moment. After Lilith held off the mighty Mustang in the background, now looking at Wojtek Rybecki, and oh, maybe a look here, a lunge, maybe a half dive, putting a little bit of pressure. That's maybe one of the places you can get away with a move if you get a really good run out of the corkscrews. Turn 10, one of the other great moves. Final corner, of course, turn number 11, and best overtaking opportunity on the racetrack is the Andretti hairpin as well. Jesse Lee, sounds like there was a little bit of action that we missed happening in the opening lap, but we have a couple of replays. Take us through it.
Let's see what happened here while we were watching the hypercars. This is the LMGT3 start. Martin Lawrence up in front with Yannick, but behind them, they are 2 by 2 going into the Andretti hairpin, which is actually turn number 2. Not one fun fact. The dog leg counts, as it often does in racing today. But yeah, squabble settled there for the moment. Martin Lawrence continues to lead, and here's the 35. Now that's very interesting. What on earth happened there? The car pogoing back and forth, almost like a bizarre steering input or malfunction, but they don't come down pit lane. Even though they were pointed in that direction, they continue on in the 35 McLaren, but very strange on the straight. And then Ted Edwards losing it here in turn number 10, coming to get the final corner.
That one was a bit strange as well. It just looked like too much speed getting carried into that car and not quite having the downforce to be able to settle it. Our leader in hypercar, Milan van der Vecken, now overtaking the first of the back markers in LMGT3. Martin Lawrence resetting the fast lap out front. And I'm noticing with Mike Hook, we have the virtual energy on the screen early, or excuse me, with Mark Gibson, apologies. He's running lower than everybody in the field. Same with Nathaniel Fever. So wondering if that was a decision to maybe go 50-50, stop right at 45 minutes, you know, less fuel, less weight, a little bit more pace, you'd think. But I see that as forcing yourself into a strategy and not being able to call an audible. You've got to be confident in the move you're going to make with that in mind, and we'll see how that plays out throughout this race. These three still glued to each other as through the first couple of laps. Rybecki leads, Lilith leading Gibson. Talk about overtaking at a premium. You can sit, you can follow, but you have to find a way through really close into the corkscrew. But to make a dive in that corner, Jesse Lee, is brave, sometimes a bit stupid. I think Grimlow making the right decision there. Even at that close, not going to make that move.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Of course, we do have several different control schemes going on in this fight. And if there's one thing that controller drivers have told me is that there's a problem in ACC that is also prevalent in LMU, I think, and that's that controller drivers, as opposed to wheel drivers, they get worse fuel economy, I think, but more apt for this, they may also get worse tire deg as well. So you wonder, Grim seems to have the pace here on Rybecki early, but you wonder, we come back in 30 minutes, maybe some of that pace has come out of the car once the life and the tire starts to go as well. We'll have to pay close attention to that. Somewhat warm 26 degrees C here today, and a Mustang is off. Was that Gibson? It was Mark Gibson in the 101. Completely backwards. The second car to have that same problem in turn 4. Did they grab the anti-cut as well? Nope.
Oh, no, I think it was a little bit in the gravel.
Fire in the dirt.
In. Yeah, just one enough to really unsettle the car instantaneously. So I think, like Kevin Boss, Mark Gibson getting away with that one a little bit. It was a hit in the wall, but not hard enough to remove anything. The multi-class has already been engaged in full force, and Louis Kierton has been plugging away while we've been watching the LMGT3. So I just found himself from 8 back up into 4th, really on the hunt, really efficiently as the 123 dice through the field, and we'll have to see when and if that momentum stops, because at the moment it's looking fantastic. Eyes set on the podium, eyes set on the lead, maybe, as Milan van der Beek still leads in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, if you're going to have an early, well, first of all, if you're going to have an incident, you might as well have an early incident, but you also might as well have the pace to back it up. And Louis Kierton has proved to us in LMU competition that they absolutely do have the pace to back it up. So coming back inside the top 5 is Kierton, now setting their sights on Fabian Schmedberger. You can see the bluish teal car up in front of them, the sort of high water mark for the podium. Looking to get that done. And look at this, Grim Lilith looking to make the move and gets it done. Pass made for 4th place in LMGT3.
That's a really good place to do it as well. Got the run out of turn 5 and got the move done before the rail straight and before they got up into the corkscrew. Because now there's not a whole lot of places after turn 6 to get a quick re-overtake done, and Rybecki's still close, but a little compromise on the exit there was Grim Lilith by Louis Kierton, defending valiantly on the brakes. We'll see which BMW's better. Lilith has it. Really good traction on exit. I think is going to hold on to it. Got away with that by the skin of their teeth. That's something we're going to start to see. Is it's a small track, and these are some big cars, and hypertaric cars are going to come through when they feel they're able, and to the detriment or to the benefit of the cars around them. That's what multi-class is all about. A wise man once said, Jesse Lee, and it wasn't me, but multi-class give it and multi-class take it away.
Those are certainly wise words, and that is really the case. And you saw as that battle resolved itself with Lilith getting that 4th place position, there were hypercars that came through, and one of those cars was sort of held up a little bit, but that is the way it is. And luckily that did not disrupt the battle for the fight or change anything, but that's the way it is, especially if you're a hypercar. You're seeing it right here again, up into the corkscrew, absolutely nowhere to go for the hypercar. Has to follow Grim Lilith through, and will do as they come down through Rainy Curve. Going to try around the outside. You got to really trust the GT driver to give you just enough space. Of course, Grim, a veteran, knows exactly the width of the track, gives just enough space. Easy peasy. Just got to do that about 100 more times. Very small track, very small confines. You're going to be seeing a lot of traffic in a race like this today. Martin Lawrence continues to enjoy the lead in LMGT3 over Yannick and Hoka, the top 3 right now in that class as the hypercars filter through the GT field for the first time.
They're all getting it done. They're figuring out, I think maybe several new drivers learning for the first time what it's like to deal with multi-class on this circuit. I mean, I imagine a lot of them have been practicing, but to what extent have they been in? Have they found their way into a session where there's a bunch of other cars on track? They feel their way through. Maybe, maybe not. And I think those that have experienced this before are at a benefit that maybe others with less experience have not. But at the end of the day today, Jesse, they're all going to be masters of this circuit in one way or the other. They're going to know, all right, this is what I need to do, and this is what I had to do to get to the end of this race. We talked about him a little bit earlier, but there's Gabriel Figueiredo on our screen. Interestingly, The brothers, Gabriel and Rafael, both qualified in this race, but neither took the race start. Gabriel came out after they had completed the first racing lap. He left his pit box and joined the race. So here to get in some laps and maybe find his way into a points playing position, maybe a fight within Hypercar. But I did think that was a bit interesting. They were here for qualifying, had to step away. Only one brother returned, so we'll see how he does in the remainder of this race. And Van der Vecken, absolutely comfortable. Jesse out in front. He's a phenomenal talent. We know him very well. We've seen him many times, and not to jinx it, but I think he's got this one in hand, at least at this stage.
Yeah, Milan looks comfortable, doesn't he, out there in the Aston Martin? And yeah, it just looks smooth. He doesn't like he's fighting any particular condition with the car right now. Of course, 15 minutes into the race, you'd hope not, but you never know where setup or handling gremlins can rear their head. But just looks smooth, looks confident. He's going to diamond off this corner, take a longer run through the hairpin. That's excellent for speed. Of course, if you were defending, you might shave off a little bit there. Nothing doing. Just, yeah, it looks calm, cool, collected, composed, using all of the curb, but not getting the anti-cut. And throttle inputs, brake inputs, everything looks well under control. But I will say the one thing we know about Laguna Seca is everything could be under control 1 second and be complete chaos and disarray in the next. It's just the nature of the racetrack. So often the winner here at Laguna Seca isn't always the car that had the easiest drive for whatever reason. They'll be dealing with traffic and the sort. Also, if I am Van der Vecken, I'm still looking at that car in fourth place. I'm monitoring the gap. The drivers can do that as they drive, and they will see that gap between competitors come down or expand, and that might also influence you just a little bit as the race goes on.
You find yourself maybe paying a little too much attention to the car behind you that you forget about the car you're driving, and that's when the mistake starts to come. And at this stage, I mean, 10 seconds, the gap between Milan Van der Vecken and Louis Kierton, that is a large amount, but that's not an insurmountable amount. It's still, 75 odd minutes to go in this race. Something interesting that just happened. Nathaniel Fever, another car that didn't take the race start on lap 1, but instead took it at the end of lap 1, has just set the fastest lap in LMGT3. So clearly has pace, but unfortunately is not in a position to really be able to use it a whole lot. Tom Watts, the driver on the screen, driving the newest hypercar to LMU on the newest track, of course, the Genesis hypercar, and it is sort of capturing the minds and of a lot of people. A lot of drivers like it. It was quite quick on the outset, and I think it looks good. I think it sounds good. Both two rally car engines together. You got my attention. Also a bit of contact between a pair of GT3 cars. Kevin Boss trying to unlap himself on Panagiotis, and well, the gap was open and then it was sort of shut, and maybe a little bit clumsy from the pair there, and Kevin trying to make up what he can in his early lap melee. Of course, is 2 laps down from the lead lap in LMGT3. So it's going to be a long night, but if Kevin, I'll just say, if he just finishes this race at this point, with the amount of attrition sometimes see Jesse at Laguna Seca, I think he might get in for a decent haul of points.
Yeah, I don't think that Carreras meant anything by that contact. It's just, if the door is just open a smidge, you take a look, and that's exactly what they were doing in that instance. But you never know. A couple of different incidents here. One in the corkscrew and one coming through turn number 9. And we're going to see that more as these tires start to wear, Jack, and as the sort of fatigue sets in on the cars and the drivers' minds. You're going to see more and more of that, and we start expanding the confines of the racetrack. And then track limits are exploited, and then drive-through penalties get issued.
That's just how the cookie's going to crumble, I think, for some of these drivers, for some of their their races. I mean, it happened last week. Podium positions changed in both classes by nature of, you know, people who were and weren't getting track limits. That was Tony Jupp there that Ted Edwards just got by, so not on the same late racing lap, but get through. Follow me on through. He seems to be quick. He may be in a hypercar, but he probably knows what's going on throughout the field. No big swings in virtual energy that we see. Possible overtake here by Fabian Schmidberger for seconds.
Now he's in second.
Is there a Martin Vaselli in the gravel?
That's what I was wondering. Either that or it's already happened, or he's so far off that we didn't see him. But you have to take our word for it. Our camera operator certainly has found that Schmidberger's in second, and in fact, Kierten's in third. And Vaselli, who was chasing Milan van der Voken, is no longer in this race, Jack.
That's a curious one. That to me, with that replay, there wasn't any sort of smoke or anything. I think that may have been
the leader.
A disconnection. Yep, leader in GT3. Did something happen in the final corner? Oh, he just starts to go around. He hits the anti-cup curb on the inside and also gets some on the exit. He spins the car around, and it is a dangerous place to do it. But he had enough room. Widest part of the circuit there, the start-finish straight. But that's going to drop him down a couple of positions. No longer the leader is now in P3.
Well, Martin Lawrence has it all to do now. Spins out of the lead, gives Yannick the lead over Hoka in second. And Martin Lawrence will have it all to do. For my money, was just about the second quickest car in that class, lap after lap, and will continue to do what they can to regain. We've seen him do it before as Martin Lawrence, regaining the lead that they've lost in the race. Can they do it again here at a very tricky track indeed? Ryan Gill was in our chat earlier, the LMP2 champion, by the way, saying that Kierten is absolutely flying, trying to get all that track position back. He's just done it again. He's got P2 back.
Just a storm, and the job's been made a little bit easier by the removal of one of his rivals. We'll see where it was done. Nose to tail coming in. Oh wow, that's just really well placed, really well done, really confident into turn 6. We saw Grim Lilith make a move there. I said it was a good place to do it, whether Louis Kierten was listening or not. He followed my advice and said, yeah, this seems like a good spot, but it almost seems like Schmidberger maybe on a slightly different strategy, saving a bit more fuel, saying, you know, probably shouldn't fight this, might lose a little bit of time, and doesn't seem to work very hard to keep Louis Kierten behind. It could be, Jesse, Schmidberger is going for the ultimate big brain play and decides, all right, Kierten, you go catch Milan, you two slow each other down, and then I will be in the fight for the lead.
Yeah, and to add further context to some of the events in the past few minutes, our pit reporter Harry Conway, 3-time Night Out champion, by the way. I don't say that enough, but he is 3-time Night Out champion. Harry Conway has told us that the reason that Vaselli is out of the race is that they were off and in the wall in turn number 3.
That's such a shame. That's, you know, I feel like I'd almost sort of rather that be the case than it just be a server issue, getting booted out of the race completely randomly. We'll try again here. There is the purple Penske Porsche of Martin Vaselli, and yeah, that's starting to go around and around, and an impact into the wall. Well, he surveyed the damage, did Barton, and say, I'm not gonna finish well, I'm gonna have to pit, so I'm gonna go and spend the rest of my evening doing something else, which entirely fair, but it's now opened the door for Louis Kierten to have a slightly easier way to get back up to the lead of this race. The gap hasn't closed at all to Milan, still 10 seconds, but now there is nothing between Louis Kierten in the way of hypercars and Milan van der Vecken. So it might be a bit of a slow burner this fight, but we'll keep our eye on the gap because I have a sneaking suspicion it's gonna close up and maybe even change before this race is over.
Well, here it is. This is the long and the short of it. About 2 seconds, the gap between Yannick, who leads over Hoka, and Lawrence, the top three. Martin Lawrence clearly has the pace over the two, even with the sliding of the tires. I would imagine with as far as he actually slid that car, and especially lighting him up to get the car facing the right direction, he is dealing with a vibration in the 171 Lexus right now, but it's certainly not hurting the pace as he has caught Hoka up. And Yannick, of course, doing the very same for the leader, Yannick. And the three-way fight for LMGT3 is on. Ooh, dips a tire off into the grass, does the number 1 Porsche, or number 2 Porsche, I should say. It's in second place. It's the number 1 car, but it is in P2. Follow the math, people at home. He's trying to keep the Lexus behind him and stay out in front of the Ferrari, but that's easier said than done. Certainly wish you had a mirror off button. Of course, they're mostly digital these days, right, Jack? You wish you could turn it off, and in fact, actually in LMU you can. And I would say turn that mirror off, drive out of the windscreen here.
I think you're, well, it depends on whether you have a button for it, or in fact know what the button is,
or know what the macro is on the keyboard. Yeah, I think it's one of the numbers. But I mean, are you really going to start pressing all the numbers mid-race?
What do the numbers mean? We're just going to start hitting a bunch of them, and maybe the car will turn off. I don't know. Maybe you'll initiate the self-destruct sequence that all these LMGT3s have. Yes, it's a fact. Look it up, read a book. But no, I think definitely driving out of the windscreen, Jesse, is going to need to be the name of the game. But I think within that, and also trying to catch up to Sisman Yannick, bit of an incident for Billy Octane, who was running 5th, now 4th. Seems to have gotten away with it, but it looked like in the Andretti hairpin. So a bit of sort of, I think, a little bit too much speed carried in as he went. The car was squared up for the corner, but that was more than the tires could handle. And a pretty consequenceless spin there for Billy there.
Yeah, he's going to stay in 4th place. Lindhout has had a spin out of 7th place in the BMW as well, and they're stationary for some time, but they have gotten the car going the right way. But for Octane, that was as minimal impact as it possibly could have been. Still inside the top 5, has a little bit of a sideways maneuver, and that's just speed plus braking input equals sliding the car. You're going to see that a lot more as we continue to get deeper in this race. Not even 30 minutes into the 90-minute affair, and it's only going to start compounding. And if you've already slid your tires once, it's going to make it even worse the further we get into the race. Voken continues to lead over Louis Kierton. Kierton's back in 2nd place, almost like the spin never happened. The fight for P1 may be on. 13 seconds the gap, 1st to 2nd in Hypercar. Mark that down in your heads. We'll revisit that a little bit later on. Schmidberger is in 3rd. Octane Watts the top 5. Meanwhile, in LMGT3, Martin Lawrence took the lead from pole position and has had a spin in turn number 11. Now they're down to 3rd place, giving the lead to Yannick with Hoka in 2nd place. But this is the state of the fight for P1 in that category. The Ferrari leading the Porsche, leading the Lexus, as we ride on board the Czech drivers from point of view out of the Lexus. And what a noise that Lexus makes.
Oh, good old V8 motor. Of course, last year of competition, I think in most places is for the Lexus RCF. It hasn't been changed since 2016, by far the oldest race car. I think it actually might have been 20. It technically was rebuilt into the LMGT3 spec, which is technically newer than that, but it is an unchanged car from the GT3 format. Splitting hairs ultimately, but about to be replaced by the new GR GT3, and I think the new one's going to sound quite good, but it's going to sound quite different because, of course, it's turbocharged. Little bit of back marker traffic that
wouldn't do this.
Mike Hoke under pressure. Martin Lawrence going to go for it. He's going to think about it around the outside of the Andretti hairpin. His nose is still there. He's saying, up, you can't go wide, but run out of room a little bit. That would have been some move to pull that off from that position, but that is just pressure applied by Martin Loring.
Oh,
And
he's up the
got to
inside.
move here. He's up the inside into turn 4. He doesn't quite force the Porsche wide, but he forces him as wide as he's gonna go. They're getting ready to break into turn 5. Trying around the outside again, maybe a switchback. He can't get his nose quite under. Side by side into turn 6, though. Oh, are they gonna go for it?
Oh,
They
look at
might.
this.
Or it seems like he's got a bit door to door all the way through. They're gonna go side by side and push off, and round goes Martin Loring. That's why you don't want to do that. Into turn number 6, I thought they might get away with it. The amount of contact side to side as they were coming up the hill spelt doom, and unfortunately for Martin Loring, he's around again, and he's got to make all of that ground back up.
I'm over here just shaking my head. I got my hands on my hips. You could see that coming a mile away. If you've seen one incident, you've seen many. And has something happened to Milan van der Voken from the lead? And it has. Voken has spun the number 36 Aston, had a 13-second lead, but has spun it in turn 13. Minimal damage. The only damage really done, of course, to the tires a little bit, but more importantly, done to the gap delta between first and second. Another unforced error for one of our leaders. Both of our leaders in both classes have had issues in turn 11 today. But the bigger issue, Martin Lawrence coming to blows. We're going to see it here again. It wasn't that they were side by side. It was that they kept running into each other and space ran out. And dare I say, tempers flared just a little bit too.
So we'll see what it looked like from on board. And right when Martin Loring turns in, he's already round. From that view, that sort of indicates that's just he was willing to turn in. He was expecting Hope to back out, but he didn't, and maybe a bit of an error from the outside. But it didn't look like there was a whole lot of contact from inside the car. It didn't even really look like they were coming together from the perspective of Martin Loring. But regardless of how it happened, it has happened, and it's going to be head down for the remainder of this race. From Milan van der Vecken, the gap has now dropped to just under 7 seconds. So minimal damage indeed, but he had the gap, and now that gap has shrunk already. And we'll see. Well, you said note it down on a piece of paper, Jesse Lee. Cross it out. The gap is now 6.5, possibly 7 seconds, and it's probably going to get smaller. But right, 2 unforced errors in the final corner from both leaders in class. I mean, it is a tricky corner. You think you can brake far too late. It's just you're coming uphill. You're saying, right, brake marker. We're ignoring all of that. I'm just going to hit it when I feel like it. Sort of see what that looks like in a hypercar for Milan. And, well, he's going to have to work for it. Other drivers who also trying to work for it. Tom Watts, talking about him earlier, the gap now has fallen from Billy Octane. He had a spin as well in the Andretti hairpin. And, you know, Jesse, fun fact, they call him Chef, and I think Tom Watts is getting ready to cook right now.
I might know the guy who came up with that nickname. Tom Watts doing his best inside the top 5 right now. He's loving this, is Tom Watts, and still on the hunt here. We have 57 minutes left to play. Pit stops coming up, a lot of strategy yet to unfold in today's race. The battle for P2 may have been decided a moment ago after it came to blows, but the fight for P1 is now on. Hoke and Yannick fighting over the spot. It is Ferrari versus Porsche, and for my money, the Porsche has a little bit more pace right now, and I couldn't have said that whenever Lawrence was hounding Mike Hoke for that P2 position. And give a round of applause for Grim Lilith, keeping their nose clean, staying out of a lot of the major squabbles, keeping it on the black stuff, up into P3 in the GT class.
Just not making mistakes and letting the drivers around you go for it. And of course, Rimlov is not far behind this fight at all. Only a 1.5 seconds behind Mike Hoke at this moment. So it's really not a whole lot between the two. Coming into the corkscrew, we actually saw that earlier by Louis Kearton passing, well, what was a different leader in LMGT3. Very committed around the outside. Says, yep, I'm going for this. And they kind of have to step out of the way, but that's shortened the gap just a little bit through this final sector. And, oh, I was going to say, I was wondering why Hoke was staying to the inside there. Surprise! There's a BMW on this inside. And that's sort of how it feels, Jesse. When you're in a GT car, especially on a circuit like this, you're like, cool, nothing behind me. You blink, oh, suddenly there's a hypercar alongside you.
Yeah, right there, I just saw the SJ&H car lock up into the Andretti hairpin, and I think that spooked Yannick a little bit as they went extra wide. I don't think that Hoke was close enough to make him go defensive. So I think Yannick was a little distracted, went wide. It allowed Hoke to catch back up, but nothing doing there. Of course, going wide actually is a lot of times the better defensive thing to do as you go through turns 3 and 4. It just sort of sets you up a little bit better. You get a better run out of the hairpin as long as they're not fully alongside. Logan continues to lead. Kierton, that has somewhat stabilized at 7 seconds. I will say, a couple laps ago, Voken did a 14.9 to Kierton's 14.4, but they were just about dead even the last time through, it looked like. Speaking about dead even, Yannick and Hoke continue to fight over the LMGT3 lead. Lilith 2 seconds behind. Rybecki now in 4th. Martin Lawrence from the pole position down to 5th. That mountain that he's got to climb has just got bigger.
It's never going to get easier for Martin Lawrence, and I wonder if, maybe it's ringing in his ears a little bit that trying to force his way around the outside of turn 6. He had the pace and he had time to do it. It's not like Yannick was running away. He was still within view. Of course, he was still within 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, and so we didn't need to rush the move. And maybe it's ringing in his ears. A little bit of frustration now, but wasn't fit. Just jumped up into 4th. Oh, he blinked and on his way past Wojtek Rybecki, and maybe we'll just about see him with some of these camera shots, but he's there, he's looming, and here is how the move was made. Coming out of turn number 11, Martin Lawrence had the run. Is it just a very clean move on the brakes? It is so. Rybecki not even working hard to defend that. That, my friends, is what we call an inevitability. If there is a Martin Lawrence behind you, it's almost certain he's going to get by you.
Well, teammates, dare I say friends, and you would expect that, a little professional courtesy between the two of them. I'm sure it would probably go both ways if Rybecki was seemingly the quicker of the two, and Rybecki quite smartly just does it in a great place on the racetrack, doesn't even really lose time, giving Lawrence the inside of the hairpin, and they will continue on. Martin in 4th place. They were about 5 or so seconds behind Grim Lilith, I'm pretty sure, so we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, Yannick holds stern, and I will pose the question, how long can you drive defensively? For my eye, the Ferrari doesn't look nearly as comfortable, nearly as planted, running off the racetrack exactly right there, but we saw Mike Hoke do the same exact thing, trying to use every millimeter of the racetrack. Here comes the SJ&H car through as well, as they're all trying to maximize this race course. And oh, by the way, don't look in that mirror.
Don't you dare. Not at this part of the racetrack, especially once you start running up the hill. Once you start thinking about what's going on behind you, when you're getting ready to brake for the corkscrew, that's when it can go all wrong. If you're wondering what it looks like from the back end of a Ferrari to go down it, that is how big that drop is. It is absolutely stunning. Good news is for Sismanianic is, well, he doesn't really have to drive defensively until they run out of fuel. He ultimately has to drive defensively until Hoke runs out of fuel. 10% less virtual energy. I surmise that maybe it was a strategy call. But it just means that you're not going to have your mirrors full forever. Will the undercut work, though? This is probably the best time and the best hope for it to, when he comes in a handful of laps. Good Lilith, though. The gap was 2 seconds, Jesse, and we just saw a moment ago, all up on the back of the driver who currently sits
look at the mirror.
in P3. Listen, I don't have mirrors. It's looking like we might be in for a little bit of a three-way fight, a little bit of yo-yo action for Mike Hoke. He's gonna sort of get up to Yannick, maybe make an error, be in the clutches of Lilith, then back and forth and back and forth until the pit stop. So I think there's gonna be about maybe 5 more laps, maybe a bit more. It might actually be closer to 10 more laps till everybody comes down pit road. Not using a whole lot of energy on this track. It is such a short lap, but here comes Grim Lilith, and oh boy howdy, here comes Martin Lorick. He's just jumped into third.
That was absolutely orchestrated. Grim Lilith didn't want any part of the Lexus, basically got out of the way after the corkscrew, and you've seen that. I'm willing to believe that Rybecki did the same thing. Lilith, they all know what the probable outcome is from getting involved in a fight. You're going to lose time, and into a car that's presumably faster anyway. It's not worth it. Mike Hoke in the pit lane from P2 in LMGT3, the first pitter of note in LMGT3. I will say that Figueredo has been in from the hypercar class as well, pitted several laps ago, but very interesting here. We're watching this pass. Is there a car in the pit lane? No, there wasn't, but that was Tom Watts by Billy Octane. You saw Billy Octane off in turn 11.
See, oh, he was actually off a bit early. It was in turn 10. He found himself into the gravel and into the wall.
Ended up
big
in
hit
11.
on the nose. Yeah, ended up reversing. Thought he was going to reverse into 11, but goes for a bit of a 2-point turn back onto the road. And whether he wanted to pit after that incident, unfortunately for Octane, he just barely passed the pit entry, so he's at least going to have to wait a little bit longer. It's Lewis Hamilton again. I feel like we've been seeing him a lot lately.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton, my favorite livery. I told Kevin Boss a week ago, I love that livery, and he talked us through his process of what he was going to choose from. But some liveries on some cars, they're just right, and that's certainly one of them. Brilliant indeed. Kevin Boss had that early spin in turn number 4, and they have continued around, and they may be off the lead lap in their class, but that's of very little consequence for them. What is of consequence is Martin Lawrence back up to P2. Of course, Mike Hoke doing their pit stop, but that gives a free run on Yannick for the lead, and Martin Lawrence has been gaining time in a hurry.
It's already just reeled that gap right down. Didn't actually have to work to get by Mike Hoke this time, at least. He already went down pit road, so I think that's all good news for Martin Lawrence. His pace is such that, by the time he ends up down pit lane doing his full service, he might not even have to worry about being anywhere other than the lead if he can get past Sisman Yannick, because that gap is, well, it's smaller than it was when he spun a few laps ago. Absolutely reeled down. And speaking of gaps in leaders, gap has finally dropped below 6 seconds for Louis Kierton to Milan van der Vecken. They're just trading lap times at this point. There's enough cars on track of a different class that it's hard to put in consistent, good, quick laps. It's hard to close it down because you don't have infinite room as a hypercar to push as hard as you can. You're at the mercy, Jesse, of the LMGT3s before that are on track with you. And I've been hearing it, and now I'm seeing it. I was going to say, I think we're about to see the man himself, Milan van der Vecken, in a second. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not part of the church of the Valkyrie V12, welcome. It sounds really good.
Yeah, we host church on Fridays at this exact time at a racetrack near you. It is a brilliant sounding car, and it looks brilliant out in front. The one mistake in turn 11, but other than that, Milan has been in control of the race. While we wait for the pit stop cycle to commence and conclude, we'll take a look at the chat as we always do here on RCI. A couple of humorous and eyebrow-raising, intriguing chat messages. Harry Conway, the three-time Night Owl champion, by the way, chats and says, challenge, don't spin for 5 minutes. That's challenge level impossible indeed. Jordan Daly has joined us, also a many times Night Owl champion as well, has says, might have to sign up mid-season as they're bored and they don't race on Mondays. Well, everybody else's chances of winning just went down a little bit. Also asks what car class they should select. Now that's interesting. Playing with fire, asking chat and us. If I was Daly, I would go for LMGT3 honors if I were them. Signing up mid-season, I think that might just be the easier path. Phil, our beloved Chief Stewart, says some liveries are just better when they're kaiju-fied. You can't beat a kaiju livery. It is the perfect amount of class and snark. A lot of people that make liveries could learn a thing or two from the Kaiju Design Bureau, in my opinion.
He does great work. Went on a tour of lots of old ACC kaiju liveries, and there's so many fantastic ones. And I don't know, maybe we need some kaiju in Le Mans Ultimate. While we were looking at chat, the lead in LMGT3 changed in well, an elbows out sort of fashion coming into the Andretti hairpin. Martin Loring spotted a gap and said, "Yep, my car fits in there," and it did. Just elbowed out of the way and up into the lead. That was at that point. Oh my goodness! Almost a huge moment there for Sibo Lindau, chasing down Billy Octane. But as I was saying regarding the LMGT3s, I think Martin Loring has run out of patience officially. Said, "I would like my lead back," and has taken it and has immediately opened up a 3-second gap in little over a lap.
Yeah, you do got to be careful, though. Admittedly, there is still post-race stewarding, and if you overtake a little bit carelessly or a little aggressively, some drivers take offense to that, and I mean, you just got to be careful. You don't want to do anything to anger your opponents that they could show the stewarding team that would get you any sort of repercussions on your finishing time or positions here. Let's see what happened. The fight for P2 between Yannick and Lilith. Yannick goes around at the bottom of the corkscrew, and Grim Lilith goes through for P2 in LMGT3. Well held. Grim Lilith just refuses to make a mistake, refuses to be denied, has done nothing but raced smart and responsibly here, keeping the car on the track, driving to their limits of what the car can do, and picking up the pieces and debris of everyone else's mistakes. Grim Lilith to P2 again.
That's incredible work, and sometimes that's all you need to do. You don't have to be the fastest car on track. You can often just be the one that makes the least amount of mistakes, and I think there's a little bit of both of that in hand for Grim. And here's that overtake I was just talking about, the change for the lead in LMGT3 that happened a little while ago. As we see Martin Loring, a wide entry, and in he goes, and out goes Yannick. And it was
boy,
on edge for sure, but I'm sure that will be handled post-race. But the gap that's now been opened speaks for itself, and well, I think I know partly why the gap was opened up so quickly. Of course, there was a bit of a spin. Oh, a ride for Gabriel Figueiredo through the corkscrew. That is how not to do that, and how to require a change of pants mid-corner.
Yeah, scary moment, and that's just the thing. I said earlier that everything can seem completely fine, everything is in control, and then all of a sudden it isn't. We've seen both of our leaders, our pole sitters, Van der Voken and Martin Lawrence, both have the same issue in the same corner in completely different cars and different classes after seemingly having everything in hand, which is why seeing what Grim Lilith is doing, how they're doing it, is impressive because they're not doing anything at all except making good lap time. And that's the trick. It is harder than it looks, and we've seen almost every other car prove that. Grim Lilith, just the exception to the rule here today.
Clearly being, oh, I thought it was going to be a little bit of contact, maybe a tiny little kiss from Cadillac to Ferrari. Yannick this time not worried about it, and thought we saw that already, but well, it's happened again. A little bit of deja vu for Gabriel Figueiredo.
No. Tires are hot.
Those tires are cooked. There is nothing more that they can do. Surely gonna come down pit lane this time if there are tires available, which this tells me there aren't any. I was just about to say his brother Rafael has now joined him on the track. Might be 23 laps off the lead, but has come to drive nonetheless, and it's not going to get any easier for the 39. Well, we'll see. It's just kind of what happens. You spin it once, tires get hot. You spin it again, they get hotter and hotter and hotter, and cooling them on a undulating, curvy racetrack like Laguna Seca is difficult. No big straights, and also no cool temperatures to help out with that, but not exactly fighting for a position there, just sort of driving around, so sort of no harm, no foul. On board with our race leader in LMGT3, Milan van der Vecken, nearing his pit stop time, running out of a bit of fuel. The gap has closed a little bit, but not a whole lot. 40 minutes to go. It can all change, but Milan, outside that spin, like you said, Jesse, has really not put a foot wrong tonight.
No, but that gap is coming down. It was 8 seconds. Now it's 4.5, and Figueiredo has had an incident, and I'm told that this may be contact between the two Figueiredos, and it is. Gabriel and Rafael have gotten into each other, Toyota and Peugeot, but they have, oh no, they've just arrived at the same incident at the same time. Oh my goodness.
I don't, I can count on one hand the number of times I've seen two brothers make the same mistake separately into the same corner at the same time. Here's the initial one. Rafael Figueiredo in the wingless Peugeot 9X8. That is a little bit late on the brakes and a bit hard into the wall. And just give it a second. We should have a Toyota join us in just a moment. Maybe not.
Do you ever think, Jack, do you ever think that they've had an argument in their house, but like, my brother's always copying me, trying to do what I do? Do you think that's what's happening right there? A little bit of sibling rivalry going on right there?
Yeah, I think so. He said, oh, that's cool. You broke lane to corkscrew. Watch this. I'm going to break even later. And just, booyah. A little bit of a touch. Not much between friends, even less between brothers. So, well, hey, at least they're...
Well, at least he didn't aim for him. You know what I mean?
It's true. That is very true.
I'm not saying that I would have used my brother as a break into the corkscrew, but I am saying that it'd have been funny.
Yeah.
Our broadcaster, by the way, confirming that they would have also aimed for. They would have aimed for it, but no, it's just two completely different incidents, and they happen to arrive at the same time, and they just happen to share a last name, a comedy of errors indeed. Nearing pit stops in the hypercar class, everybody, well, the top two anyway, in single digits. Fabian Schmidberger has done an excellent job with Tom Watts and Whittle, saving a little extra virtual energy here, and I do wonder if that will play a factor in when they decide to come in. Will they be able to use that advantageously here in the race? But nearly everybody still yet to do their stop. Martin Lawrence, despite all the drama, starting up front, having to come back through the podium, going back to fifth, having to do it a second time, electric boogaloo, somehow has the best fuel economy in the field. Jack, I'm no engineer. I'm hoping you can explain how that happened.
could only guess. If I knew the true secrets to how he'd do that, I'd probably be out there winning races myself, but I'm not even remotely on that level. It's a mixture of a couple of things. I think in terms of BOP, the Lexus is in a really solid spot right now. It's always been an economical car, which you might think sounds strange because it's got a big V8 motor. But,
Look at this chicane. Oh no! Billy Octane trying to navigate the mobile GT3 chicane and just loses it.
Oh man, it's a sort of consequence-free spin, but that's more time lost for Billy Octane. And since that issue, oh, here's our friend again in the Toyota TR010. I think that's going to be the end of Gabriel's race. That is, did he try to take turn six flat out? That did not look like anything other than committing to carnage there in that corner, Jesse.
Well, all I'm going to say is some days you've had enough, and I think that that might be all she wrote on that Toyota hypercar. It's been a rough day for Gabriel Figueiredo, and I think it's just come to an end. In fact, it has. The garage doors down, and that Toyota is out of the race. It was a frustrating day, and it ends just as frustrating as it started. Louis Kierton in the pit lane, and I was going to mention before all of that kicked off that gap had halved. It was 8 seconds the last time we checked. It was down to about 4 seconds prior to this stop. The Ferrari in the pit lane getting the service of the team refilled with virtual energy and of course racing fuel to go the final 34 minutes of the race. The first to jump, and we've seen this before, the undercut mighty powerful here in racing in general, but seeming especially so here in LMU. Kierton in P2, closing down the leader, first to come into pit lane. Looks like a win-win to me, or at least it seems like it on the surface. We'll have to wait and find out.
We'll see. It means a slightly longer pit stop, though, is the downside of an undercut. But it could very well work for him. He doesn't have to think about anything in this race other than driving to the finish. And that sort of seems to be the way to go about it in Le Mans Ultimate. And back to my assumptions as not an engineer about Martin Lawrence's ability to have the most fuel and be the most fastest. I talked about the BOP on the car and that it's quite economical, and those of you who are unfamiliar with all the technical details of BOP might be confused by that. Van der Vecken, for the lead of this race, is in pit lane as we chat about fuel, but all the cars are regulated with a system called virtual energy. They all have different engines, they all have different size fuel tanks, and they all carry different amounts of fuel. Virtual energy regulates basically how long a car can keep driving, and the Lexus RCF has sort of the best of it, it seems, on some race circuits. And I think it's a mixture of that and really intelligent lifting and coasting when in traffic for Warwick has just allowed him to pull this, 5% gap over Grim Lilith and a 10% gap over Sisman Yannick, and it's all in hand for Lawrence. And maybe we'll see an incident happen later on that may change the fates, but he's comfortable. Milan van der Vecken, though, not comfortable at all. Louis Kierton's flown by. That's a fresh set of tires for that Valkyrie, I think almost certainly. We were talking about the undercut, Jesse, and how it could work. Van der Vecken's gone for a gamble because that Valkyrie is not up to speed yet. He's put on at least a couple of new tires. He's very slow. So hoping that once those tires get warmed up, once he gets back into pace, he will be able to chase down Louis Kierton. But on track like this, he's going to have to overtake him, and that's not going to be easy. This is a big gamble.
Well, we talked about it. The undercut, very powerful, and it was indeed for Louis Kierton, who's in second place right now. But whenever leader Fabian Schmedberger comes into the pit lane, that will hand the lead over to the 123 Ferrari and give the lead to Louis Kierton after a long last 30 minutes of trial and error for the Ferrari. has given them an opportunity to potentially lead this race, but they're going to have to navigate the same pitfalls that Van der Voeken has been navigating this entire race. Eventually, the final few cars are coming in. Richard Whittle, who we mentioned earlier, was doing excellent on their virtual energy, and Schmedberger the very same. They could go a little bit longer, and in fact they have. Schmedberger has not come in at all, has 42 seconds to Kierton the gap, and I suspect Schmedberger will go back to about third place after the stop is concluded. Martin Lawrence continues to lead Grim Lilith and Voce Rybecki, the top three now in LMGT3. While we have a minute, just reading chat again, Jordan Daly's going to do it. He's going to sign up to the International Sprint Series here on Fridays. He's even told us not only has he confirmed his class, he's confirmed his car. We're going to have another Lexus on the grid next week.
Never a bad thing. It's fantastic car. It looks good and it sounds great. So we're looking happy to have Daly back on the Monday grids, and we'll see if he can mount the challenge. I mean, he named Grim and Milan and said, "Oh, they're in class. Sounds good to me. I'll join them." Was that maybe a threat of competition? I don't know. We'll have to see, and that'll all happen starting next week. In his words, Tom Watts has come down pit lane from fourth position. I don't know if that's going to stay that way. It very well might come out just ahead of Richard Whittle, but the Genesis getting a host of fuel. Here comes Fabian Schmidberger from the lead of the race. Kierton's going to take that back, and Fabs is going to be set off to finish their race. Milan van der Veck in the gap hasn't actually opened up as much as I thought it may. Tires pretty much up to temperature at this point, so only has a second to close and then a car to overtake to try and win this race. Here comes Louis Kierton around the final corner to retake the lead of this race since turn 3, since he had it briefly. Louis Kierton has not been at the top of the tower, and here he is again. The lead is his, but can he hold it? 29 minutes remain.
Well, the comeback is complete for Louis Kierton, but like you said, now they've got to hold it for 29 more minutes. That's 29 minutes of navigating traffic, maintaining your distance, maintaining your tires, keeping it on the island. We've not seen any sort of track limits penalties today, but this is the point where we start to get into the realm where people have used up their track limit points and start getting drive-throughs. Oh, and keep in mind, sketchy moments is something you have to limit as well, and it only gets crazier whenever the two classes are intermingled exactly like that. It doesn't get easier just because you are in the lead. Looking at chat again, I love seeing people cheer on their favorite drivers. Phil's in chat cheering on Grim, of course, from the Kaiju contingent, and Merck is cheering on Milan van der Voeken. We love that, I think, up here in the box. We love to know where your allegiances lie in chat. And I'll tell you something else, folks. Your drivers love to see that as well. They may not watch the entire VOD back, but they can skim through. We don't delete the chat here at RCI TV. So anything you say in chat stays in chat. And when they look at the VOD, they see you cheering them on. I know they appreciate that as well. We love to see it too.
Oh, absolutely. It's good to have a fan club, and I think it probably makes you faster. Whether or not you know it, I don't know, maybe like a sort of chill hits a driver's spine. You're like, oh, suddenly I feel like I can go fast. That's probably your words spurring them on. So thank you to all of you who cheer on your favorite driver. Oh, in the background, I think that was Richard Whittle, who just went a bit wide into turn 5. It was the burning, or the flaming Eagles Racing team, I believe is what that very patriotic livery is called, just coming out, a slight wiggle when he gets the power back down, and a bit of a light tap into the wall. So not race ending, but I think a position loss there to Billy Octane for sure. So Whittle back down to 6th, but fortunately still driving along. Sizan Yannick, now driver we're on board with. In between the two BMWs of Lilith and Rybecki, the order in which these cars may have been dueling might have changed, but they still all three are fighting each other. At this moment, they aren't going to catch Martin Lorink. I think Adrian Fraga as well, currently in P2, I was about to say, will be pitting any moment. So Grim Lilith will retake second, Yannick third, Rybecki will move up to fourth. But these are big bragging rights positions. These are podium places. These are big for a championship as well. Jesse, we haven't spoken about it at all. Nature of the second round, we don't know what it's going to look like, but it's been the absolute truth on Mondays for the GTE Masters. It hasn't been the race winners who are leading championships. It's been those who can put in the incredibly consistent points finishes. You can have, you know, a great week, but if you follow that up with maybe a retirement, maybe a very low scoring position, you might not be able to get good points. But the likes of those who can find themselves on podiums regularly, Jesse, might be crowned championship by this is all over.
Yeah, and if your name's Martin Lawrence, it's looking good, trying to go 2 for 2. And I caught up with him this week, and I talked to him about it, and or he talked to me about it rather a little bit, and he sort of seems very well. He's Czech, so he's always nonchalant and cool under pressure, but he didn't seem particularly confident about the, you know, more than just the one race. And I think a lot of race car drivers are like that. A lot of really good race car drivers are like that. They don't come in overconfident and they take it race by race. Martin's been around the block. He knows exactly how to get it done, and he's doing it again today. Though admittedly, he may have been on cruise control for a lot of Paul Ricard, but no, he's had to absolutely work for it twice here today to get it done. And what about Grim Lilith? Still in P2, hanging out, getting an excellent finish. Another driver that would probably also downplay their ability at the racetrack. And Grim is one of those drivers that you know you're in trouble when they're absolutely confident, but also too, you know their heads in the game whenever they're talking about different phases of the race or things that they're aware of that maybe they lack in comparison to some of the other cars, or he's sort of locked in, so to speak, and he has been today, but he is going to be challenged here by Yannick for P2. And we saw both these drivers, especially Grim Lilith, maybe pull over earlier on in the race. That's done now. With 23 minutes left to go, there's no more pulling over. This is for P2. You're fighting for this one, but the hypercar traffic coming through is going to hold Grim Lilith up here. Does he get defensive? No, he doesn't. He takes the normal line. Yannick makes a look up the inside. Lilith does not fall for it. It ends up having the better line as we go up to the corkscrew.
That was perfection, I think, from Grim Lilith. It's so easy. You see the car behind you. I mean, the heli course is in your face. You see the square behind you getting closer, closer, closer. Then I should go defensive. I should go defensive. Now, Grim knows what bit of the track they're on. They're coming up to turn 6. Nobody really is going to be foolish enough to try to send a move there. At least that was Grim Lilith's hope. So stayed firm, got the good line, got the good run up the Ray Hall straight, still leading the pair as they cross the line. Martin Lorink in and out of pit lane that last lap. Fully comfortable lead, 20 seconds more hypercar traffic here. Might divide them a little bit, not a whole lot. We saw just a moment ago, Jesse, that was the dueling pair of Milan van der Vecken and Louis Kierton. Pit lane misbehavior. That's a new one for me. You got a drive-through penalty.
Yeah. Did they drive through the pit stalls instead of the lane? No, they're backwards. They're backwards, and the simulator thinks that they're horsing around, but in reality, they're just trying to do a 3-point turn here. Or maybe it's because they're sat there and you see the car was shut off and now it's back on. And I wonder, because they were sedentary, they were stopped there, the simulator kind of starts a countdown. I didn't know that either. I've never seen that, but apparently the simulator is sentient. and it doesn't, it counts that as shenanigans. There may be some shenanigans here as we come through Rainey's side by side for P2. A hip check from the Ferrari as Yannick goes through. Grim Lilith not really phased as they'll settle back down into third place, but a couple of argy-bargy moments all starting in the corkscrew, and now a wry flash of the lights from Grim Lilith, and you wouldn't need to be clairvoyant to be able to tell what those headlight flashes mean.
Yeah, it's saying, hey, that might have been a bit naughty there. That's contact. That's an overtake with contact. Maybe don't do that. Grim Lilith maybe saying, hey, give the position back and let's do this properly. I don't think there was anything too wrong with that, though. I'm not a steward by any means, and see a whole lot there that may bring down the ire of a penalty, perhaps. But Grim Lilith is going to have to work really hard to get that back, because in this second stint after the pit stop, Yannick seemed really quick. Same has Louis Kierton. Milan van der Vecken took a gamble, put on some tires, and was in hopes that that would give them the easy advantage to ride up and overtake the leading Ferrari. But, well, the gap was 2 seconds about 10 minutes ago. It's been halved, but not really a rate you'd be expecting or hoping if you were Milan van der Vecken. Think, right, I'm on new tires, right, I'm quick. Let's go make this move. And there's not a lot between them, but this is Laguna Seca. We've been talking about it all night. We've been learning about it, and as have all the drivers. Overtakes, not easy. We've seen so many, and that's been a treat tonight. But from the two quickest hypercars on the track, I don't think anything's going to happen easy. Maybe it will be a situation where there's a bit of multi-class traffic, something like this here. Catch a GT3 coming into the corkscrew, does Louis Kierton. Milan van der Vecken able to slide through with maximum pace. That's how a gap goes from over 7/10 to under half a second. Maybe an opportunity here in the final corner. No. Good enough exit for Louis Kierton. We know that the Valkyrie can be very quick in a straight line, Jesse, so we'll have to see how this is going to look as they head into the Andretti hairpin.
Ferrari versus Aston Martin for the overall lead of the race. 19 minutes left to go. Defensive inside line from Louis Kierton. Velkin tries to go the long way around. Nothing doing. Kierton makes a perfect Andretti hairpin and doesn't leave Velkin a lane to go up the inside of turn number 3. So they end up line astern as they thunder through the middle sector and under the bridge into turn number 4. That was expertly placed and raced by Kierton, who looks now to have a slight pace disadvantage. The gap was 2 seconds. It's now next to nothing. Shout out to Ash Bibby, who's joined us late. Ash Bibby always shows up in the chat when things heat up on the racetrack. Coincidence? I think not. Hello, and hope you're well. Oh my goodness, they're ooh-ooing in chat, Jack, this evening. I'm going to be making some other noises if these two don't settle this amongst themselves in a safe manner. We've seen a lot of fender-to-fender contact today. I would like to see that. Well, what I would like to have is one thing, versus what we might get, but I would like to see this resolved in a hospitable manner. Right now, Louis Kierton has completed the comeback, has taken the lead, but there's still one final boss, and that is the pole sitter, Milan van der Vecken, who has only made the one mistake, but got beat off pit road, came in a lap later, giving Kierton the undercut. Kierton has the lead. We thought would have been the faster car, but now the shoe is on the other foot. Vecken is the one chasing, and Vecken appeared to be the one with the pace, though now Kierton has turned up the whip.
I think it's just going back and forth. Of course, Milan we don't know what tires he took and how many, but certainly some of them were taken. It's a moment into turn 6 that might change the outlook of this race. Into the back of a GT3 goes Louis Kierton, and around the outside goes Milan van der Vecken. I think that was Karagaragos there that Kierton came into the back of, expecting perhaps the McLaren to be in a different location. I said it might be settled with a bit of multi-class traffic. Not the way you want to see it go, but fortunately the gap's still close. See what that looks like from Van der Vecken's point of view, because there's the Ferrari ahead. Oh look, the Ferrari's slow. I'll take that. A bit of 3 wide up the hill and take it, dunk it, and back to the lead of the race is Milan Van der Vecken.
You won't have to ask him twice, and you certainly didn't win around the outside. We've seen that move at Laguna Seca before, almost a identical scenario several times, and just well taken, well driven by Volkan. Kirton will be absolutely fuming there. Not a whole lot else that they could really do in that situation, and we've talked about it all day. And why? Because it is the reality. Traffic giveth, traffic taketh away, and it was definitely all take and no give there. But now, what will Louis Kirton's response be with Milan out front, because the Ferrari doesn't look like they're done yet?
Absolutely not. That was just you know, an unfortunate moment, but not something that decides the race. There's still 15 minutes on the clock. There's still, you know, about 8-9 more laps remaining in this race, and that's a lot of good chances for the likes of Louis Kirton. They seem to just be trading lap time. That time only a 10th between them. It's sort of been the case all race, but I mean, hats off to Louis Kirton, because from getting the lead in the first couple of corners to losing it instantly, to mounting a comeback, to drive through the entire hypercar field, to being within a shout of winning this race, to well, now seeing that it's so very possible. I'm absolutely impressed, and I'd say I'm impressed by all the hypercars, because outside of that little bit of contact between Kirton and the McLaren, that's really the first bit of car to car between classes that we've seen this race, and it's super narrow, it's super hard to work through traffic, but everybody's done an excellent job tonight.
Yeah, there's been a couple of touch and go moments. The Billy Octane spin trying to navigate one of those mobile chicanes in between turns 2 and 3, right? But that wasn't car to car contact, and usually at a racetrack like this, it's quite a lot more prevalent. I was noticing earlier, I actually wrote down on my scratch pad that a lot of the GT3s were being very smart with how they're giving lane preference, or just sort of driving normally, allowing the hypercars to work through, and just, you know, giving lanes on the exits of corners. We saw Grib Lilith do that earlier in the race. That was quite notable that that he specifically gave a lane knowing that there was going to be a hypercar, even though they weren't there yet. And this battle's going on all over the racetrack, but still everyone giving just enough room. Most of the contact has been like this. It's been in their own class, and it's certainly something to applaud. Hey, Jack, would you like me to do some math?
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Yeah, I don't know why
a dangerous suggestion.
I don't know why our broadcast producer just said "uh-oh" in my ear, like I can't do math.
Yeah,
but
go for it. What kind of math are we doing?
Well, luckily for you, I have been doing the maths, as you might expect, and it's all completely hopeless in the hypercar class, because you've got Milan van der Voeken, who's leading. These two continue to swap Hoke and Rybecki side by side. Hoke will take that position away from Vulture Rybecki and get up into the 4th place position after a couple of argy-bargy corners between the two of them. But I have been doing the hypercar points math, is what I'm on about, and it is completely hopeless, because Van der Voeken and Kirton don't have points. You got to go to Fabian Schmedberger, who's the first car in line that has points. What I can tell you is Fabian Schmedberger is going to leave round 2 at Laguna Seca as the points leader here in the International Sprint Championship. And whoever wins between Voeken and Kirton are going to single-handedly get themselves back in to championship contention today. And realistically, though, both of them are going to have a huge leg up now, because the drivers that they would have been having to battle with, Martin Vaselli and Andre Ursu, are not here. Billy Octane is inside the top 5. but Schmedberger's in third. I think Schmedberger takes the championship lead. It's going to be close between themselves and Billy Octane in the hypercar class. But if you don't trust my math, then why would you? American education system. You're going to have to show up next week for round number 3, where we'll have the actual official points, where we'll tell you that almost every driver is deadlocked after 2 rounds at the International Sprint Championship.
Yeah, that drop round sort of means that you can miss a race and still be okay. More swapping between Mike Hoke. This time he's gotten past Grim Lillis just about. BMW out of the corner a little bit better, but the Porsche on the inside is going to come on through, and I think that was Billy Octane there. That was sort of watching. Oh, that's all of the anti-cut curb that could have possibly been taken by Grim Lilith. Maybe a bit of an optimistic way to get a nose in, but, well, wheels up. And now Grim Lilith falling from a hope for a podium, now down to P5. You can see, oh, man.
Contact pushed him into the anti-cut curb. I thought it was just a mistake that Grim made, but no, it was the contact that got him over into danger in the first place. Of course, he was looking down the inside, but wouldn't have been that far over. So just a mistake, a huge mistake right there that put Grim's BMW into danger.
It's the driver that's made the least mistakes, at least in LMGT3 that we've been talking about all night. Finally, one maybe made of their own, and with 10 minutes to go, is looking to get back up to at least 4th. But knowing Grim, that is definitely, they're going to be looking to get up back onto the podium. They feel they've deserved it. They feel like they've earned it. But now they got to go solidify it. They got to go grab it all over again. It's been a topsy-turvy race for a few. Martin Lawrence comes to mind. He went from 1st to 4th to 2nd to 5th, now back to 1st. And Grim Lilith doing a little bit of that. Milan van der Vecken's gone from 1st to 2nd and is still holding 1st at the lead of our race with 9 minutes to go. And as the clock does tick down, I do want to take a moment and thank some of our wonderful partners that help us over here at RCI. And I want to start with Coach Dave Delta and Coach Dave Academy, because when it comes to sim racing, setups are going to be your best friend. And unless you have the intelligence and time, and well, you're really good at what you do and you don't want to make your own setups, Coach Dave Delta has you covered. Not only for that, but coaching services are available and different apps that can help you get quicker on the racetrack. Oh, there's a Porsche backwards there. Not sure which one that was. I think that was Mark Gibson, perhaps. It was Mark Ham, the other Mark, that was around there, and fortunately out of any sort of trouble. But was it maybe assisted? Oh, it was not. It was what we call a Porsche moment. What a dodge. To go low that soon and think this will be fine from the Mustang. Actually, I think that was Mark Gibson in the Mustang that made that dodge. So it was almost Mark on Long Islands. Wasn't quite, but ends up back around, back moving, and just for style points, we go on board with Gibson to see how that looks. Hey, that Porsche's going around. I'm going this way. And just like we wrote
Jack,
in the book.
I swear sometimes, and you'll know this from your sim racing, is where first of all, how do magnets work? You know what I mean? It just feels like sometimes when a car starts to spin, you can do everything right to try and avoid them, but it's almost like they have some sort of heat-seeking technology that no matter what you do, that's what Mark Gibson felt like right there. They were doing everything right, and quite nearly the Porsche almost ended up in their lap, but well held, and the hypercar who went around the outside as well. A scary moment and not a lot of space to avoid. We've seen several of those today where there's been a spinning car and everyone has been able to avoid. That's exactly what we like to see. Oh, look at this.
Oh, another moment. Possibly a change for the lead. Was a mistake by Milan van der Vecken? Was it maybe a little bit of, I think Maybe, yep, just went wide. Did Milan van der Vecken out of turn 6. The corner that earlier on decided the change for the lead has now decided the change for the lead again. And Milan van der Vecken is, I think he's backwards out of the final corner. Just briefly, he has done. Out of turn 11, the Aston Martin Valkyrie, hopeful for a win, trying to go for a move, makes a mistake, takes the anti-cut curve. We've been talking about him, and goes hard into the wall. It actually almost hits Tom Watts. Scraped away with that, but I don't think, Jesse Lee, at this point, that he's going to be able to retake this lead.
Well, very few times am I speechless, but motorsport will do that to you. There's always something you don't expect, and I didn't expect that. Another mistake from Milan van der Vecken in turn number 11, giving Louis Kierten back the lead of the race. Volcher Rybecki, while that was going on, this was happening to Volcher Rybecki simultaneously on a different part of the racing circuit. That gives the spot back to Grim Lilith, and I believe that was Ted Edwards who it was. I was correct the first time. That was Ted Edwards in the number 8 Ford who drove through. That drops Volcher out of the top 5, giving Grim 4th place and Ted Edwards a promotion up into 5th. 5 minutes left in the race, and in the hypercar class, they've swapped back around. Vecken with the mistake and Kierten with the lead again. Whoever makes the last mistake might just be the one who loses it all. 5 minutes to go. Enough time for one more drama, perhaps.
Oh, we got plenty of time. Enough time for maybe 4 dramas. I have to say, Hoke here has absolutely put in a stunner of a second stint, because here he comes on the back of the driver in P2, but while that was going on, Ted Edwards just gotten up into 5th position and loops the car around, lost the position to Rybecki, so back down into 6th for the Mustang. But gotta say, Mike Hoke has just, well, he's sort of come from nowhere. He went for this huge undercut, pitting far earlier than anybody else in GT3, and has just made the absolute best of it. Was, I think, in 5th out of the pit stops, but here he comes trying to make a move up into 2nd.
Well, this is high drama here at the very end of round number 2 of RCI's International Sprint Series, and it's come to contact as Hope goes through. Yannick spins off into turn number 4. Grim Lilith somehow, some way is back up into a podium spot, as Yannick will feel hard done by that in turn number 4 as it came to contact with Hoke.
That looks really naughty. The fact that Hoke also went into the gravel leads me to think that it was very ambitious of a move. We'll see what it looks like from on board Yannick's Ferrari. He's turning into the corner, and well, he's given a little bit of assistance, runs it out wide, gets it back onto the circuit pretty quickly, but not quickly enough for Grim Lilith to squeeze right on through. It's just all coming undone in the final few minutes, Jesse. We thought we maybe had a feeling where this race might look and change for the lead in hypercar. The podium positions in LMGT3 have all but turned on their head. It's well, the only thing that's certain is that nothing is. There's no doubt there. Off in turn 6 again, becoming a troubled corner. Is maybe a little bit of, that may have been a bit of a lockup on the rear, a bit of panic there.
Say, is that braking on the dirt as well while locking up?
So sees the McLaren and says, oh, there might be a bit of contact here. Right, I should probably start slowing down. Oh, no, it is into the back.
Gets into the back of him, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Right the first time. Got into the back of him. I thought it looked so awkward that maybe a lockup while on the dirt could send it that way, and It could have, but it didn't, and it wasn't. That was absolutely contact that led to the harsh spin. Just misjudged it there, did Sibo Lindvall.
Yeah, it's, you know, we talked about driver fatigue in round one. We're going to talk about it all the way through the season, because after an hour and a half of multi-class racing at an incredibly high level, you know, it takes a lot of mental acuity to do this. It takes a lot of, you know, physical energy to do it as well, and things are starting to come undone. Mistakes are starting to come thick and fast, even for our leader, Louis Kierton, going into the grass. Well, the dirt that sometimes is grass is sort of not making it quite easy. Possibly the final lap of the race. We may get just one more after this, but from a less than ideal start to a race to about the most ideal to a finish, it seems that it is in hand for Louis Kierton. I am knocking on wood because I don't want it to all get undone now. But I believe Louis Kierton is going to come through. 30 seconds on the clock, I think. We're going to get another lap, only just.
Yeah, one more. He has only got 9 seconds in the bank, so you can't slow down. Sometimes we'll see drivers do this to preserve, but won't be able to do it. This will be one more lap around WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca for Louis Kierton. It's been an up and down yo-yo kind of day for the driver of the Ferrari, but one more lap and they will be the ones celebrating it all. By the way, I just want to give a shout out to Phil in chat, who is he's on a joke spree in chat. He's also calling for a polynomial equation stream. I do not have the brain wherewithal to solve for X. I promise you that. Louis Kierton continuing around one more time. The car wearing the scars of the day, Jack, but it might be the sweetest of victories after what we counted as two separate types of comebacks.
It's been up, down, left, right, diagonal, sometimes upside down, and Louis Kierton's done all they needed to do, survived all the elements, all the different variables within this race, and a little bit of celebration early, confidence that nothing can go wrong through turn 11 for the final time for Louis Kierton. The comeback is complete, and welcome to victory lane for round two.
Louis Kierton, no stranger to success in LMU, notches another one in the belt and on the trophy cabinet. Milan van der Voken, qualified on pole, will come home second. You wonder how they feel about that, but you won't have to wonder how Fabian Schmedberger feels about this third place. Mostly kept to themselves, had some dramas in the middle of the race, but caps it off with a podium and a brilliant finish by Tom Watts, and an excellent job by the 42. And Billy Octane, after all of that all day, will get rewarded with a top 5, both the SJ and H cars inside the top 5 here at Laguna Seca. Martin Lawrence has won it in the Lexus in LMGT3. Talk about a comeback victory for them. We're nearly outside the top 5 and drove back through the field. Felt that it was so nice, did it twice, and gets the win over Hoke and Grim Lilith. Another excellent story for Hoke and Lilith. Lilith was, in the final 20 minutes, was like just barely hanging on to the top 5 and gets a podium. So many stories coming out of Laguna today.
Is it a good racetrack that they've added to Le Mans Ultimate? I think it's a fantastic one, and tonight's an indication of what's to come now that this is a permanent resident in LMU. Your race results after 90 minutes, starting with LMGT3. Martin Lorenk, it almost didn't appear as a dominant race, but to be able to go back and forth feels dominant to take victory. Mike Hoke, a stellar bit of strategy. I sort of was doubting it at the beginning of the race, but my, it's worked to come up, make so many moves in the final 20-30 minutes to get up to second. Beautiful work. Grim Lilith, almost a mistakeless race, possibly P2 on the cards, but settles for still a fantastic podium. Seesman Yannick, led the race for a while, didn't end up having it going their way. Wojciech Rybecki in fifth, Ted Edwards in sixth, Mark Gibson seventh, Mark Ham in eighth, Tony Jupp in ninth, Kevin Boss finishes inside the top 10. Panagiotis Karageragos, our final finisher, in 11th, with Adrian Fraga and Nathaniel Fever having retired from the race, with the remaining 4 not having taken part. So we move to the results in Hypercar. Louis Kearton, from the mouth of defeat, takes victory at Laguna Seca. Milan van der Vecken, maybe going to have to settle for second, maybe going to be a little bit upset with how it shook out. Fabian Schmidberger, certain to be smitten with a podium tonight. Tom Watts on a return to hypercar competition in RCI, a really stellar drive to get up to fourth. Billy Octane, the second SJ&H car, marks 2 SJ&H cars in the top 5 here tonight. Richard Whittle finished sixth, and Sibelin Thetfout finished in seventh, with Gabriel Figueiredo and Rafael Figueiredo giving us cameos in different parts of the race, ultimately retiring. And Martin Vaselli, the driver who was running in second for a little while, early retirement in tonight's race.
Crazy race, crazier finish, with a lot of positions changing in those final 20 minutes of the race. I thought maybe the pit stop would settle things out, but no, they still had on-track squabbling to sort out the final positions, both in hypercar and the podium positions in LMGT3. The whole race from start to finish was exciting, and we expect to have the very same next week as we go to Qatar for round number 3. Jack, 2 races in, I'm none the wiser on who the dominant cars are. I wouldn't bet against Martin Lawrence in LMGT3, but Hypercar and the rest of the positions in LMGT3 wide open after 2 rounds.
Absolutely, and Qatar is one of those circuits that it kind of feels like, one that not everybody knows all that well. It's not all that popular. I don't understand why, because it is one of my absolute favorites. So glad we're going back, but it's another one where in a multi-class environment, it can be incredibly tricky, extremely high speed. The closing distances between hypercars and LMGT3s, especially in the third sector, can catch you out. Things can go wrong. Drama will sure to be happen. Track limits as well. I thought they'd come into the equation this week. I was entirely wrong, and we'll see if that carries into next week as well, because those are certainly easy to rack up. But I'm just excited. 2 stellar rounds so far, and 4 more to tie off this season, and I'm just excited to get going again. I said it on Monday. I kind of wish we could just sort of skip to 7 days from now so we could run it all over again, Jesse, because that was an excellent amount of fun.
Certainly is. Of course, we're done for the week, but we'll see you next time on Monday for continuing coverage of the GTE Masters Championship here on LMU. That entire championship has been just as insane and impressive as Friday's has been. Jack and Callum with Cormac bringing you all of the action on Monday. And of course, we'll be back on Friday for Qatar round number 3 of this championship. And just a final shout out to our partners that make this race and every race possible. Green Man Gaming. You can get Fallout 76 for less than 10 quid. Convert to your local dollary dues right now by following our link into the description. Moza Racing. They have direct drive wheels and ecosystems, no matter what your budget is. We highly recommend them here at RCI TV. Coach Dave Delta, get yourself some setups and some driver coaching. Doesn't matter what sim, doesn't matter what car, they've got you covered with a setup over at Coach Dave. And a special shout out, of course, to Motorsport UK for recommending us as an esports community. Jack, I think we may have one taker for an interview and I think you're down there with Milan.
Milan van der Vecken, a really stellar drive, but I feel, I feel the vibe perhaps that maybe you think there was more out there. Of course, I mean, not being able to convert the pole to a victory, late race drama. I mean, how do you feel about the whole thing?
Yeah, I feel good that the pace was really strong, and also the quality. And yeah, unfortunately, I was going wide before. Uh, yeah, I was going wide in the gravel, and Louis passed me. And yeah, then we were battling, and I touched the curb a little too much. And yes, I spun.
Listen, if it makes you feel any better, those anti-cut curbs were not just rude to you. Plenty of people had adventures going over the big sausages tonight, and it's a close quarter circuit, Laguna Seca. I mean, it's new. Everybody's still kind of learning it. Only had what 3-4 weeks to sort it out in LMU. I love this circuit. I think many others do. Are you a big Laguna Seca fan? Has this race maybe made you into a big fan, or do you think it's just kind of meh?
Yeah, I was already a fan of Laguna Seca, but yeah, it's a decent track, and the Valkyrie is also decent here. So if the Valkyrie is decent, I love it.
That's fair enough. I respect that. Thank you for letting us indulge and getting to listen to it week after week after week. I think we'd all be pretty sad if we didn't have the privilege of hearing that thing absolutely screech around racetracks around the world. So thank you for that at the very least. But I'm glad you sound like you're in reasonable spirits after the race. Things went well, and hopefully things to go better in the races to come. Milan, before you leave, anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, because my mate Sibo, who was in call with, and also Zino and my team Merxim Racing for watching and supporting me. And also, I want to say sorry to Tom Watts for the rejoin because that was a bit, yeah, harsh.
It was a little close. We saw it, but hey,
Yeah.
you got away with it. You got away with it. Both of you guys did. But no, it's things that happen in the heat of battle. Milan, congrats on a P2. Hopefully next week you'll end up one higher. And thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna practice for the next round, so maybe something more.
Well, we will see you next week at Qatar. Mr. Lee, I believe you have a Kevin Boss, or as he likes to be known, a Red Boss, down with you.
Yeah, I do. He's definitely checking in. And boss, that looked like, from everyone's perspective, a difficult race out there. But what was it like from your perspective in the McLaren?
Difficult indeed, especially getting a puncture. Great start to the race, but yeah, I just kept on driving. But I actually have one question for you, Jesse. Did you see me get unlap myself on the other McLaren, and could you say the thing?
I did not. We did not. And I didn't. And you've just made me the saddest man in the universe. We had this plan that I was going to do the Star Wars reference. We do call him Red Boss now. And I had this whole thing that I was going to do, but we didn't catch it. And now I'm gutted. Kevin, can you do me a favor? And I know it's a big ask. Just do it at Qatar next week. We'll catch it next week.
Uh,
We know what we're looking for now.
yeah, I'm not good at Qatar and GD3, so we'll see how it goes. But I'll do my best. I was actually hoping for a bit better here because in LMP2 I had a good time, but Uh, yeah, in especially in the McLaren, I just didn't have the pace against the others. So maybe it's the McLaren, maybe it's me in GD3, but I'll keep going, and yeah, we'll see where I end up.
There you have it. Kevin Boss, you said you're not particularly thrilled about your prospects, but just what was it like out there today at Laguna Seca in a different sim?
Um, in a way more difficult, in a way more enjoyable, but for some reason the race felt a lot longer than whatever I've done before in ACC, which is I think the only other place. Oh no, I've driven in iRacing. So yeah, for me, the everything just felt like it took longer. Just the amount of laps we did. I never had that feeling in another sim, but I had it here. Don't know what caused that, but yeah, it was a mental slog.
Finally, anybody you would like to shout out?
Shout out to the SGNAs guys because I was laughing a lot through the struggle of a race, but yeah, it was always fun with them.
There you have it. Kevin Boss looking for a better run. Still has one of the best liveries in the field. Thanks for talking to us.
Cheers.
Jack's down with Ted Edwards.
Ted, I feel like a bit of a quiet race from you, at least from our perspective, but quietly plugging away, maybe struggling a bit again with the Mustang that you had in your hands. But overall, I feel like it was a pretty decent performance. How you feeling about it?
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, I span lap 4, I think. I got wrong on the brakes. Luckily, kept out of the wall, but I dropped from 6th, I think it was, or something like that. And it ended up at the back, and I just had to try and, like you say, claw my way back. Car felt fine, but after 25 minutes, the tires weren't worn heavily. They're like 80, low 80%, but it just felt really slidey on the rear. Spoke to the other guys that I was in a voice call with, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's the same. Like everyone up front's doing like a second slower than what they were doing at the start." So I was like, "Okay, it's fine. I'll just keep trundling." And then I did my pit stop one, and then the second spin was on the last corner of the last lap, just trying to beat Becky out of it, see if I can get a drag to the line. But apart from that, it was all right. I mean, I got a bit of rear damage from a back marker not braking right, and I don't know. But I mean, Mustang felt better than round 1 and 2, so I can't complain.
Well, heading into Qatar next week, maybe a little bit of wind in your sails, as it sounds. You feeling hopeful? You think you're going to suffer through it, or I don't know, couple Ted cents for the fans at home.
Well, I have to see if I'm around for that. But yeah, if I can make it, then we'll see if we can do a Ted 10. I tried one today, but I just couldn't get close enough.
That's all good. I forgive you. They're always around, and we always have the memories and viral Twitch clips to remind us of the good old days. But no, Ted, thanks for joining us on track, and as always, anybody you want to shout out before you go?
Shout out the SJNH boys just for making it quite an entertaining race, because like Kevin said, it felt like it went on for ages. And congrats to Grim for getting P3 after the door banging I heard that happened. So congrats to him.
Well, thank you, Ted, and to all of our drivers who joined us here tonight. Because as always is the case, Jesse and I know this as a fact, without any of our drivers, our jobs would be far less fun, far less interesting, and probably wouldn't exist. So thank you to all of them and all of you for watching tonight. Before we get ready to go, I do want to mention one other thing in terms of RCI news and upcoming events. Of course, we have the 300 miles of Daytona that was just recently announced. We're getting ready to go racing for a solo endurance event September 5th, 62 grid slots, LMP2s, hypercars, and LMGT3s, just like they do it in January for the Rolex 24. And I'm excited. Get your signups in. We will almost certainly be bringing you that here on RCI TV. But Jesse Lee, I think about from us that brings it to a near close. I'm ready to do this again next week. I'm ready to see more awesome action. Ready to go from a place that looks like a desert in California to a place that actually is a desert on the other side of the world.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. 2 rounds in, it's been chaotic. The drivers are not holding anything back, and they're putting on a show second week in a row where major positions changing hands late in the race. who are we to believe Qatar is going to be any different? It's going to be exciting indeed. 1 week's time, 90 minutes around Qatar. But before then, Monday champ GTE, and it is at Le Mans. Need I say more? I mean, I don't think I need to sell that anymore. So subscribe, like, hit the bell, and we will see you at GTE Masters on Monday, and then again on Friday for the continuation of the International Sprint Championship. On behalf of everybody here at RCI, I want to say thank you for everything: chatting, driving, liking, subscribing, doing all the things that you do. We'll see you next time. Have a good night.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream.